Okay. Because of the marine microbial food web, there were vast developments in the microbial ecology of aquatic ecosystems. Okay. So because of the marine microbial food web, also a a tremendous amount of research was carried out in microbial ecology. Okay. So the use of flow cytometry, the use of radioisotopes, all this uh, helped us, help us understand more about the role and function of microbes in the sea. So, as I mentioned earlier, we need to understand the role of microbes in the sea, partly to better assess the impacts from eutrophication, the impacts from warming, global warming. Okay, so the sea uh, is a major sink of CO2. So we know that global warming uh, is caused by an increase in CO2. Okay, and the increase in CO2 is partly balanced by absorption by the sea. So a lot of the CO2 the extra CO2 that was emitted by human activities were absorbed by the sea. But you also know that uh, processes that absorb CO2 in the sea, for example, primary production that fix CO2 in the sea, is also balanced by heterotrophic processes, respiration by bacteria, grazing by other organisms. So we need to know the functioning of these organisms uh, in order to assess whether the habitat that you are studying is a net source or a net sink of CO2. Okay, whether the waters that you are studying is actually absorbing CO2 or releasing CO2. Okay, so that's where the term net autotrophy or net heterotrophy comes in. So if it's net autotrophy, means the phototrophic processes are more important than heterotrophic processes. That means uh, that the area that you're studying is a sink of CO2, where the primary productivity is essentially greater than respiration. In contrast, if the habitat that you are studying is net heterotrophy, that means the heterotrophic processes are more important. For example, community respiration is actually larger than primary productivity. Then the habitat that you're studying is actually a source of. So at present, most of the coastal waters are net heterotrophic. Okay, and most of the tropical waters are also net heterotrophic. The net phototrophic areas are usually very productive areas. For example, in North Pacific Ocean. Okay, so that is a major area where it is a sink of CO2. So the term sink and source, you have to familiarize yourself. Also the term autotrophy and heterotrophy. Okay, so another term that you should also be familiar with are top-down and bottom-up controls. Okay, so if you imagine bacteria as a component, so The bottom-up controls will be the food, the temperature, nutrients and temperature, availability of nutrients that controls how fast your bacteria is growing. Okay, so these are considered bottom-up controls. So bottom-up controls are usually related to food source and also related to environmental factors that drive the physiological processes. Whereas top-down control are more straightforward, top-down controls are related to grazing and predatory pressures. So even for bacteria, viruses are considered top-down control because viruses will kill bacteria. Okay, so for bacteria, viruses and protozoas are considered top-down controls. Whereas for bottom-up controls, they are nutrients, food source, and also temperature. Okay, so for all the components in the microbial food web, there are bottom-up and also top-down controls.